going down, you vicious hardcore camera geeks? This is Sam, and we are back today. And you know, I was looking at the calendar and I said, damn man, the holidays are coming soon, and before you know it, it's gonna be 2020. So that means 2019 is gonna be going down very soon. And I said to myself, damn, I still remember when it was 1999, man. Can't believe it's been 20 years. So I'm going to be doing a series of episodes on camera gear from 1999, and not specifically camera gear that came out in 1999, but the cameras that I was using in 1999. And now, you know, I don't think anybody would be interested in what I personally was shooting in 1999, but the only reason I'm doing this is because 1999 was, for me, a very pivotal year. It was actually the last year that I used film cameras exclusively, because I did not get a digital camera until the year after, the year 2000. And I'm also doing it because the cameras that I'm going to profile are so damn cool that people still love them today. So as you may or may not have noticed, I am trying to get out more videos to you quicker, and so I'm going to try to keep them a little shorter. And so with that in mind, let's get on to our first camera. And first up, what I consider to be my main camera in 1999 is this camera, the Nikon F100. Now, to me, the Nikon F100 is a modern classic. Alright, you camera geeks, well, here is the autofocus camera legend, the Nikon F100, in all its glory. And right here I have the El Cheapo 50mm f1.8 AFD. As many of you guys probably know, I'm a big fan of these cheap 50mm lenses because they get the job done. But we're not talking about that today. Today we're talking about the Nikon F100, and I'm not going to go over too much of the specs because this is not meant to be a full-out review. I just want to give you guys some eye candy. Camera porn, I said. You jizz! Anyway, yeah, look at her. Basically, to me, the Nikon F100 is a modern masterpiece, really. Modern classic, if you will. Anyway, the Nikon F100 was born of the Nikon F5, so it shares the same autofocus system. But the great thing about the F100 that makes it better than the F5 is that the 5-point autofocus system actually lights up red, like what everybody is familiar with these days. The F5 did not have that, and I believe that was due to patent issues. Anyway, take a look at the top. If you look over here and you look over here, you can see how they took this camera into the future with the Nikon D1, the D1H, and the D1X. They all share that similar controls there. Anyway, the build quality is great. She feels great. There's 5 autofocus points, and in all honesty, I don't think anybody really needs a gazillion autofocus points. I primarily use the center point anyway. Now, if you do shoot sports and you need a gazillion autofocus points, you probably would not be shooting on a film camera in today's world anyway. Yes, in my opinion, definitely a modern masterpiece. Just look at the beautiful, beautiful, sleek and clean lines on this camera. It just looks perfect, really. But back in 1999, there were a few things about it that made it not perfect for some people, and I'll tell you guys about that in a moment. Truly a camera legend, and to me, in my opinion, an almost perfect Nikon camera. And I say almost because when it was out at that time, there were little things that people nitpicked on. The fact that it has a 96% viewfinder coverage, that was one thing. The fact that it doesn't have a mirror lockup, that's another thing, which to everybody else is just, you could just throw that out. But to that very little niche of people, it made a big deal. Okay, now when you look back in perspective, you can see why. I mean, some people like to use the mirror lockup for copy work, things like that. And don't forget, back in 1999, we didn't have these awesome digital cameras where you can bump up the ISO, and you know, high ISO film was and is grainy, which is something that we actually love about film today. But back then it wasn't necessarily so that people loved all that grain. Okay, so we can appreciate it more now that you have these digital cameras that give you such clean images at ISO 50,000 or whatever you could do with it. But anyway, the mirror lockup is really a minor thing. In fact, some of those people who made a big deal about it, if you go back and read some of their postings, they actually said that when they tested the mirror lockup of the Nikon F5 and using the F100 without a mirror lockup, they saw virtually no difference. Okay, so let's get that out of the way. But anyway, yeah, so this was my main shooter back in 1999. Now I don't even know how I came across one of these because I'm not usually an early adopter, but this camera was released in 1999, and actually I do remember how I did it. It was on one of those photo forums. Somebody got it. Then they sold it really quick. I guess they had buyer's remorse or something, but they sold it at a good discount and I jumped on it. So that's how I got it. And this is actually not the camera from 1999. I actually probably went through about 3 of these. So I used that one for a while and then I ended up selling it. And I usually sell when I need money or you know, I want to upgrade. So I got another one sometime in the mid 2000s, and this one I got in 2011, and I've been holding on to it. But the F100, if you like autofocus cameras, and I love autofocus cameras, but I still prefer the manual, no battery Nikons, the Nikon F, FM2N, etc. But for autofocus cameras, to me this is among the tops. Now the F6, people would consider that the ultimate Nikon, but to be honest with you, if you get this for less than a fraction of the price, you have 90% of the performance of the F6 without paying that kind of price, which I think is a little too much if you just want to play around with film. Anyway, this thing has everything. This camera has everything you need. The autofocus is very speedy. As I said, it comes from the Nikon F5. It was born of the Nikon F5. It's less bulky than the F5. It's not small by any means, especially compared to today's mirrorless, but it's definitely less bulky than the F5, and it's, to me, it's almost a total package, really. And for the price that you can get it for these days, which would be trending at $150 to $300 depending on the condition, I think it's a bargain. You know, when we talk about cameras like the Contax T2, which we've talked a lot about, going up to $1,200, things like that, $1,000. To me, $150 to $300 for this camera is a bargain. The build quality is great. It offers you a little bit of everything. Now, if you are really cheap, I could recommend to you a camera like the Nikon N80, which is pretty cool. I mean, the autofocus is slower, but it'll get the job done. But what it doesn't have is it doesn't have the cool respectability that the F100 gets from Nikon lovers. So this, as I said, this camera has pretty much everything, even in today's world. Cool factor, price, performance. So I definitely would recommend the Nikon F100, and I'm trying to hang on to this one unless some really bad gear lust gets over me. There's not many things I could say would be a problem with this camera, but one thing I could see is that the rubber, sometimes it gets sticky over the years, you know, because of the sweat in your hands, the humidity, etc. It gets sticky. That's why if you ever looked up on used camera dealers and you see surface sticky, that's what they're talking about. In fact, I have a friend, a dear friend, you know who you are. Anyway, one time he was trying to show off to me his new used Nikon F5. He says, feel this, man. And it actually looks perfect. It looks like, you know, almost brand new. But when I felt it, I said, oh my goodness. I didn't want to ruin his day, so I just said it in my own mind. Oh, surface sticky. And yeah, this camera definitely has some sticky surfaces right here. But it's nothing you can't live with. I mean, there are some remedies for that, but I don't want to go through it right now because we don't have time for that today. Let's get on to our next camera. Okay, well, I was planning to give you guys one more camera, or maybe even 1 or 2 cameras on this video, but as I can see, we are up to around the 10-minute mark, so I don't think we're gonna have time for that because for some reason I still have a 15-minute limit Plus, I don't think any of you guys are going to be sitting around for 15 minutes anyway, so I'm going to save it for the next video. But in case you're interested, here's a little preview. Alright you guys, well, next up from my gear bag of 1999 is the venerable Contax T, and I suspect that this camera right here is probably the camera that probably more of you guys are interested in than the F100. Anyway, this is the actual Contax T. Alright, but that of course is the legendary Contax T. And if you like the Contax T, and I know a lot of you guys love the Contax brand, stay tuned for that. And so with that, I'm going to have to get going. So thank you guys so much for watching. And if you got anything out of it, if you like cameras like the Nikon F100, the Contax T, Hasselblads, Leicas, etc., don't forget to like, comment, subscribe for new videos, tell a friend about it. And I do thank you guys so much. And you know, these cameras get me so excited that I am going to say I will catch you guys next time on the cameralegend.com YouTube channel.
cameralegend.com